Liverpool take on Manchester United this weekend, and I think there's two scenarios here. One is, can United do it again after Amad Diallo's a magical moment for United fans last season, or how many will Liverpool score? Before we get into all of that, where are you with this fixture?
Well, it's a fixture on paper that's been a Premier League great over the course of time. I'm not always sure this is the blockbuster fixture it's made out to be, though. Some of the games are a little bit underwhelming given the build-up that this fixture obviously gets. But, I mean, it's very clear who the better side are out of these two. And in the past, I've looked at Manchester United and I've gone, well, it's still Manchester United. They've still got a lot of talent within their ranks and they can still inflict some damage. Honestly, as an Arsenal fan watching on, hoping that United get something, I'm not really giving them a chance here. I've got to be honest. From a Liverpool perspective, you must be feeling pretty confident at home, at Anfield, against a really poor United side.
I just don't like this fixture, right? It's probably like an Arsenal-Tottenham fixture for you. Like, Tottenham could be terrible, but they might just have something
There's that
for
fear
you.
inside you of what could happen.
And I don't know if that's just like, because if you look at the stats, probably over the last 10 games where United have played Liverpool at Anfield, Liverpool probably won 8. Looking at the last few, though, this is where the nerves come in, by the way. I know Liverpool fans are going to be sat at home going, why is he nervous? But it's 3-0 at Old Trafford, 2-2 at Old Trafford when Kwanzaa played that pass. We'll talk about Kwanzaa. 4-3 in the FA Cup when Liverpool had 80 million shots on goal. Liverpool 0-0 and Liverpool 7-0. Ever since the 7-0, it's been a weird run since then. Liverpool have only won one, United won one, and there's been 2 draws. Key areas for United in this one. Let's start there because I think a lot of people are going to go Liverpool definitely going to win. The wing backs have been spoken about a lot. It was Eriksen and Casemiro in the last game against Newcastle. If you're Amorim, is it time to start changing?
It's really difficult because I think if you come in with an idea, you want to convince people that that idea is the way to go. But as time's going on, we're seeing that this squad was not built to play this way. I think we all knew it, but we've got confirmation of it now. I think we talk a lot about the wing backs. I don't think they think like wing backs. I know Jamie Carragher did a really good analysis on that. They don't step forward early enough. They don't step into those attacking positions. Maybe because it's something new for them and it's something different and they're trying to adjust those mindsets. I've got a lot of sympathy for Ruben Amorim because I think he's inherited a mess. I think Erik ten Hag took Manchester United so far backwards and it was masked by the fact that he was able to win a couple of trophies. But you look at the midfield, and I think that is where Amorim got it horribly wrong against Newcastle United. You can say what you want about United's squad and the level that they've been performing at, but to go into a game with Casemiro and Eriksen, that's unforgivable.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that those two lack legs. Everybody knows that Newcastle's midfield, on the other hand, has plenty of power, has plenty of running legs and all the rest of it. And I just think that's where Amorim got it horribly wrong. I'd be shocked if he goes the same way again.
Yeah, that the Newcastle. I was in America at the time, and I was watching the game. I will admit passively because I knew what was going to happen. Because within 2 minutes, I think Bruno Guimaraes wins a tackle, passes it off to Gordon, and you see Casemiro and Eriksen shifting. And you know midfielders tend to shift together. There was so much distance between them. It's not their fault, by the way. Casemiro's used to playing in a midfield 3. That's not a midfield 3. And he's used to playing next to guys who do a lot of running for him. So I think when I look at this, I go, also, if you look at Liverpool's midfield, when they played Tottenham, Szoboszlai was in midfield, Curtis Jones came off the bench, McAllister and Gravenberch. There's a lot of legs in there. I think this is where I'm stuck, to be honest. I think United have to be pragmatic, but they don't create chances anymore because they play 2 fullbacks as wing backs. I think you go lopsided. I think you start Mazraoui, and I think Dalot has to go, and maybe Garnacho comes in there. I don't know how you feel about that, because then it means you move away from the principle that he's trying to like sort of build into this team.
Well, it's interesting because I think you can. I think as a manager coming in, you want to implement your style, right? And if you give up on it too early, then you lose.
It's like giving up if you tinker
No,
a little bit.
this is the point I was going to make. I think when you play a side of Liverpool's quality, you can make tweaks and adjustments and you can pass it off as something that is necessary for this particular game. You can't abandon your principles when you play Brentford at home, for example. But when you play Liverpool away, I think that's a game that anybody in world football can be forgiven for saying, I need to adjust it slightly. So I agree with you. He should adjust it. If he has, for instance, Mazraoui on the right-hand side and he takes Dalot out from that left-hand side, there's no reason why Lisandro Martinez can't just shuffle across, be a left back when Manchester United are without the ball and it looked more like a back 4. Whether he does that or not, I mean, he sat there after the game against Newcastle, Ruben Amorim, and said, I've only got one idea. Not sure I would have put that out into the public domain if I was him, but it's very clear that he's going to stick to that way. And any adjustments that he does make, they could be the difference between United getting hammered or getting a respectable defeat. That's how I see it. I don't see any way of them winning.
I think that's probably because you're an Arsenal fan. I don't see United winning because at Anfield and Liverpool have been pretty invincible this season, bar the Forest game. But they have to find a way to make this a contest. They can't have a game like the Liverpool-West Ham game, which Liverpool won 5-0. It was never a contest. That could have been 10-0. United can't be in that situation because West Ham can get away with it. On the Liverpool end, there are a couple of areas, and obviously for Liverpool, it's almost as if like there's nothing really to talk about because they've been so good. But Kwanzaa comes in because there's no Kanate and no Joe Gomez now. He had that mistake against Bruno Fernandes last season, and since that point, Arne Slot has said he needs to grow up, he needs to sort himself out. A kid coming into this game, sort of thrown into it when he's not really had a chance. Surely that's the area where if you're Højlund, who's struggling big time, you're saying, go and stick it on him. Now, we know Højlund wants to go scrap with Van Dijk. I don't know why. But you're going, go to Kwanzaa. Every time the ball's wide, get into that space. And then there's obviously Trent out right back, who's currently going through this situation with his contract. That might be the area for United.
Yeah, it's the area that I'd be looking at. It's the side of the defence that you'd certainly be looking at to try and expose it. I think when you mentioned Garnacho maybe coming in for Man United, I think that's what I would do. I would try and pin Trent Alexander-Arnold back rather than allowing him to come forward freely. I mean, he'd still try and do it anyway, but if there's that threat in behind, he is going to think twice about it maybe. And if you're the centre forward, you will go and put yourself on Kwanzaa, or you should, rather than Virgil van Dijk. Listen, I would have said a week ago, if you asked me, that this was a game for Xerxes. Because I would have asked Xerxes to go and stand on Kwanzaa, but do what Xerxes does, which is drop deep, go right, go left, pull people out of position and try and create those spaces for the likes of Garnacho, Diallo, if they play, to run into. The problem is Xerxes got hooked after half an hour against Newcastle United, was booed by some of the Old Trafford crowd, and now you wonder where he's at in terms of his Man United career. So there's so many interesting narratives, but that's definitely the side of the Liverpool defence that you would look to get at if you're the opposition.
The issue for United is the Alexander Isak goal. There's 3 centre-backs in the box. A cross comes in and he's somehow still free. Liverpool will put a lot of balls into the box and they have the deadliest forward in the league at the moment in terms of goals and assists, but also against Manchester United. I didn't know this, but he scored 12 goals and provided 6 assists, which is more than any other player in Premier League history against Manchester United. That's obviously Mo Salah. Is there a way to stop him, do you think, if you're United? Even with a back three. Previously, you'd say back three, wing back, you tuck in, go two. I don't think there is a way that you can actually get around him.
I think he's so good that, you're trying to solve the impossible by, looking at shutting him out completely. If it were me, forget the back three. It should be a back five. Away at Anfield, it should be a back five. And you need the fullback to double up with the left-sided centre-back to try and close that half space on the right.
This is where I think it gets interesting because we were talking about Dalot out and Garnacho in. So if Garnacho comes in at wing back now, it's Lisandro against Salah for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and that is a worry because look, Lisandro Martinez, when he came in, there was a lot of hype around him. There was that whole debate, is he big enough to play centre-half in the Premier League? I don't think that's necessarily true, the narrative that he can't do it, but you saw what happened against Newcastle the other night, and that was, I guess, further exposure of maybe where his form has dipped a little bit. But yeah, if you play Garnacho there, he's got to do the work back. Like the best wingers in the league do that. When their team need him to dig in, they do that. Martinelli does it for Arsenal. Saka does it on the other side. We've seen some of Chelsea's wingers really chip in with defensive work this season. So doubling up is the only way, but then you've got the problem with Trent Alexander-Arnold. So it's almost a game of chicken. Do you sort of leave someone high up and leave Salah in a position where he can expose your fullback or your left centre-back in United's case, but try and pin Trent back? Or do you say everyone behind the ball and have them both coming at you for 90 minutes? It's an impossible task.
What's interesting is I read I can't remember who this thread was by on Twitter, but basically they were talking about how Slot allowed Salah to... What do you guys call it here? We say Johnny hanging, but I know that's not what it's called here. What's that called? Like
sort of goal hang.
Like goal hanging, yeah. Where he just sort of like hangs forward now and he just waits for his moments. And Slot will always play the odds. He will say, even if Garnacho's bombing on, and let's say United start someone else, Rashford, it won't be Rashford, but even if they're bombing on against Trent, he'll still say to Salah, you don't need to track back. That's where I think United will have a problem, because then Liverpool have made the decision for you. Liverpool are saying they're going to carry on playing down that right-hand side. So then Lisandro's got to decide, am I going to go wide with Salah? They've got to decide, does Dalot tuck in? I think for this game, I actually agree with you. I think you actually go 5 at the back, basically, and try and keep Liverpool out for as long as possible and pinch something on the counter if you can. The problem they've got is they can't score goals. and they can't create chances. And you were talking about Xerxes, and I would have thought this game was made for him. He's not going to play, I don't think, which leaves you with Højlund, who... Where are you? Where are you with Højlund? Because you're quite sympathetic with strikers generally.
Yeah, because I think we live in an age where everything's judged by goals and assists. And I think that in the modern game, especially when wingers are more like forwards in a lot of cases, actually the centre forward's role can be sometimes to facilitate as well as score. And I think with somebody like Højlund, I saw him a lot in Serie A. And it was clear before Manchester United signed him that this was a guy with the potential to go on to a really high level, but he wasn't there yet. And Manchester United went and spent a lot of money to get him out of Atalanta. And I just don't think it's happened for him, partly because maybe he hasn't been up to the level required, but largely because Man United are nowhere near it. And if you've got wingers coming either side of you consistently that you understand, whose movement you get to grips with and get to terms with, then that can work. But one week it's Diallo, the next week it's Garnacho. You know, where's Bruno Fernandes playing now in this new system? He hasn't been able to form a partnership with Marcus Rashford because there are other reasons now around that as well. So I do feel a little bit sorry for him, but has he been good enough? Probably not. The price tag isn't his fault. The fact that Man United pinned their hopes on him isn't his fault, but he's not quite at the level.
All right, time for score prediction. I feel like I know what you're going to say.
Liverpool 4, Manchester United 0.
I'm going to go 3-1. I think United will score. Probably a set piece or something, although they're terrible at defending set pieces. But I don't see Liverpool.
Well, Manchester United haven't scored in any of their last 3 games. 3-0 defeat against Bournemouth, 2-0 at Wolves, and then they were beaten 2-0 by Newcastle.
Yeah.
So I suppose they're due a goal.